Welcome back, students. In the previous video we have seen defining relative clauses. In the beginning we have learnt what is a relative clause, what is antecedent, and what are the features of defining clause and the examples we have seen. If you have already seen and now look at the second video on non-defining relative clauses. If you have not seen the first video, please watch the first video and then look at the second video. Look at non-defining relative clause. We have learned that there are two clauses in relative clause. Number one, defining relative clause. Number two, non-defining relative clause. About defining relative clauses, we have learned in a detailed manner. Now, let us see second one, non-defining relative clause. What are the characteristics? What are the features of non-defining relative clauses? When we read the title non-defining relative clause, we understand the meaning of the clause to some extent, because in the title itself we find a negative term, a negative word. What is that? Non-defining relative clause. So this is something different from defining relative clause. So what is non-defining relative clause? See, the first feature of non-defining relative clause is it does not modify a noun or pronoun. The first and foremost feature or the characteristic of non-defining relative clause is it does not modify a noun or pronoun. See, noun or a pronoun means antecedent. About antecedent you have been introduced in the first video. So antecedent is nothing but either a noun or a noun phrase or a pronoun with which the clause begins. That is called antecedent. So this clause doesn't modify, doesn't restrict, doesn't limit a noun or pronoun. And second feature is it gives extra information. In defining relative clause, we have learned that it gives essential information, whereas non-defining relative clause gives extra information. Extra information means additional information. That is a further information which may not be necessary. Do not get confusion here. In defining relative clause, it gives essential information which is necessary. Okay, whereas in non-defining relative clause, it gives extra information which is not required at this junction. And the third feature is it is separated by commas or hyphens. This is the major physical difference between defining and non-defining. In defining relative clause, it is not separated by commas or hyphens, whereas in non-defining relative clause, it is separated by commas or hyphens. Sometimes it is separated by commas and sometimes it is separated by hyphens. And the fourth feature is it is generally used in written English. It is generally used in written English. Written English in the sense in the reading text or in some stories or novels or some narratives we find non-defining relative clauses. See, this is not used in spoken English because it is separated by commas and hyphens. If it is not used in written language, if it is used in spoken language, listeners may not be able to understand whether the speaker speaks defining clause or non-defining clause. There will be some ambiguity. In order to avoid the ambiguity, the writers use non-defining relative clauses in their writings, but it is not possible in the case of spoken English. That is why most people say it is generally used in written English or written language. These are the major features of non-defining relative clauses. You try to compare the difference between defining relative clauses features and non-defining relative clause features. Okay, look at the example. First example, in order to make you understand whether the given example is defining or non-defining. Let us see. The first example, Nick, who was teased and bullied, had an electric wheelchair for mobility. See, Nick. See, Nick is the name of a particular person. Don't get confusion. It is not the name of a thing or object. It is the name of a person. He is the greatest motivational speaker in the world today. Perhaps there is no one who is not aware of the name of Nick. This is a short name. His full name is Nick Vujicic. He is the greatest motivational speaker in the world. He has traveled across the world with his speeches and messages. See, Nick is the name of a person, so it is nothing but it is the antecedent. Who was teased and bullied? So this is the class. This is the relative class. This class is separated by commas. This class is separated by commas. Had an electric wheelchair for mobility. See, when we read this sentence, when we read this class, we understand one particular point very clearly. Number one, what is that? Nick, who was teased and bullied, had an electric wheelchair for mobility. Here this class, who was teased and bullied, is not modifying, is not telling anything about Nick, because it is very clear. The person, the name of the person is very familiar to the readers, very familiar to the listeners. There is no need for this class, there is no necessary for this class to modify this antecedent, because all the readers know the name very well, who Nick is and what he is. So there is no need, there is no necessity of this class. That is why it is non-defining relative class. So it is separated by commas. That is one thing. Another thing is, without this class, even there is no class here, this sentence makes full meaning and it is grammatically accurate. Look at this. Nick had an electric wheelchair for mobility. It is meaningful and grammatically accurate sentence. So there is no part of this class. So it doesn't modify the noun or pronoun or the antecedent. This is called non-defining relative class. Another example, look at this. Shakespeare, who wrote 37 plays, was the greatest dramatist in the world. See, all the students in the world, perhaps there is no student who is not aware of William Shakespeare. They must have read the writings or the poems or something, some works of Shakespeare at least once in their course. So Shakespeare, this is the name of a particular person, William Shakespeare, who wrote 37 plays, was the greatest dramatist in the world. Here in the second example also, the class is not needed. The class is not necessary, because Shakespeare is a self-identified name. Shakespeare's name is known to the readers and listeners. There is no need of this class. This class does not modify this antecedent, because Shakespeare is a self-identified one. It has got the antecedent has got its own identity, recognition. So the readers easily identify that he is William Shakespeare. So without this class, this sentence also meaningful. This sentence is also meaningful and grammatically accurate. Let us read. Shakespeare was the greatest dramatist in the world. So this is meaningful and grammatically accurate. So there is no necessity of this class, even if it is present. So when it is present, what does it do? It adds additional information. It gives extra information. It gives further information about Shakespeare. What is the additional information? What is extra information? The extra information is who wrote 37 plays. Who wrote 37 plays? About Shakespeare, some additional information is he has written 37 dramas. That is the additional information. So this is the second example. Look at the third one. My brother, who is a police officer, lives in Hyderabad. My brother, who is a police officer, lives in Hyderabad. My brother. Here the antecedent is very much familiar to the speaker, because my brother, imagine I am the speaker, I am talking about my brother, so there is identity. I am very much aware of my brother, so there is no need of this clause to modify antecedent. Okay, my brother, who is a police officer, lives in Hyderabad. In this example also, this without this clause, imagine for a while we keep this clause aside and read the sentence. My brother lives in Hyderabad. So it is meaningful and grammatically accurate. So there is no need of this clause to modify the antecedent in this example, but it gives extra information, additional information, some more information. What is that additional information? What is that extra information it gives? Who is a police officer? Who is a police officer? This is the extra information. In this way, the non-defining clauses are used in written language. So I think and I believe you have understood the difference between defining clauses and non-defining clauses. Once again, defining clause is one in which the clause modifies the antecedent, whereas non-defining relative clauses, the clause does not modify. Instead, it gives extra information or additional information or more information regarding this antecedent. Okay, the students in this connection, the students may have doubt. Sir, how to identify a sentence whether it is defining or non-defining? For example, plain sentences are given and the students may be asked by their teacher, okay, identify the following sentences whether they are defining clauses or non-defining clauses. In such cases, these clues will help you. These clues will help you as to whether it is a defining clause or non-defining clause. See, identity of non-defining relative clauses. Okay, first clue, first technique to identify is number one, proper nouns. You know proper nouns. Whenever a clause is begun with a proper noun is nothing but a particular name of a person. A particular name of a person. For example, Nick Vujicic, this is a particular name. William Shakespeare, this is a particular name. Whenever a clause is begun with a proper noun, then you can say this is non-defining relative clause. This is the first clue or first technique to identify. And the second one is sometimes non-defining clauses are introduced with possessive adjectives. Possessive adjectives like my, our, your, his, her, they. I have given an example on this. My brother, who is a police officer, lives in Hyderabad. Here my brother, here my is possessive adjective. This is called possessive adjective. This is an antecedent. In the antecedent, in this class, it is begun with possessive adjective. So it is non-defining relative clause. And third one is demonstrative pronouns. Sometimes non-defining clauses can also be used with demonstrative pronouns. In other words, we can say non-defining clauses can be used with demonstrative pronouns like this, that, these, those. Of course, when you go into the deeper level of grammar, you will get the third point. But at the surface level, even for 10th class students or in competitive exams, particularly DSC aspirants, they do not go into such deeper level. First, they may ask on the first rule or first or second rule. And remember the features of defining relative clauses and non-defining relative clauses, after which you will try to do the examples and the exercises on your own. Definitely you will be confident of answering the questions given by anybody in the examination. Okay, this is all about non-defining relative clauses. After which we shall see the difference between defining and non-defining relative clauses regarding meaning. I will let you know in the following unit apart from the exercises. Please subscribe our channel English Victor. Thank you.